Welcome back to another episode of the Carbon Cardboard Podcast covering the Formula One sports card hobby. We have a post Singapore Austin Grand Prix preview episode, Scott.
That's right. Yeah, it's funny. It feels like it's been a while
It honestly
because it has been over, I think, 2 weeks now since we actually recorded, but we did the record early, release later. So I think as far as episodes, it's only been a week or so, just about a week since we posted the last one. So
Yeah,
excited.
I feel like
Get
I
into it.
haven't actually talked to you in a few weeks because through the magic of technology, like you said, we had a few of these in the can.
Yep.
Episode 70, my friend.
Wow, the big 7-0. 7 more episodes till
And we're at
Valtteri Bottas.
until the Valtteri Bottas, and then we'll hit Piastri, and then Behrman.
Oh, we should do something special for episode 81. Maybe Piastri will have won the championship by then.
Could be.
Or lost it.
So we have a lot to cover. So we're going to just
Sure.
quickly go through and talk about your trip to Singapore with D2 of Golden Pulse. D2,
right.
There's your early shout out. I'm going to give you a few, probably others.
Quite a few.
He's due several at this point. And obviously, the one, the only, Jeff.crypto.cards.
Uncle Jeff.
Uncle Jeff. I don't think I've heard him referred to as Uncle Jeff yet.
That's what Sebastian knows him as.
Well, we are going to talk about Sebastian too in a little bit.
It's true.
So go over the race real quick. Preview Austin. Our this or that. This episode, we're going to actually look at Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. One of our favorite things to do is look at 2020 Topps Chrome.
Yeah. This was one, and we'll get into it more, but it was very surprising to me, kind of when I dove into the data a little bit, and had noticed the trend. But yeah, I think seeing it on paper, and we'll walk through it with you guys, it's a little eye opening.
And then we will end with a look at the Austin Grand Prix, where you are headed as of the time of this recording. A lot of Formula One card collectors are convening in Austin. It sounds like it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, Austin Grand Prix is always a great race, and it's always really fun vibes. Usually, I'd say the most collectors, at least as far as I'm aware, go to the Austin Grand Prix. Just because Vegas, very pricey, way out on the West Coast. Florida, also kind of pricey, and down in the Southeast. So Texas, closer to the middle of the country, not quite as expensive, and a really good race. So definitely a good one to see.
While you're here on YouTube, like, subscribe, add a comment down below, do all those YouTubey things. While you're here, search
even dislike if you want. Still adds
yeah, it counts as engagement, but please don't. And also, if you want to leave us positive reviews on Apple Podcasts, we appreciate that too. We've been hanging around like 12 reviews for the longest time. I know we've got more than 12 listeners on the
come
audio.
on, I thought we were up to like
but anyways,
30 or so.
Look up 2022 Charles Leclerc Sunset Lap.
Ooh.
Austin Grand Prix. And it's
Top
even
Gun
better
music.
and even better with the Top Gun music.
That's right.
There's even an edit, Scott, that actually transitions from Leclerc's lap in Austin to, I believe, what was it, Verstappen? Was it 23 in Brazil with the dark cloud there? I don't know. Anyways, anyway, we are completely off track. You can tell we have not talked in forever.
That's true.
Absolute cinema, Scott.
Yeah. So that's the only way to describe this. So, of course, if you were watching, you saw what we were doing. If not, we ripped 8 cases of 2020 Sapphire. It was interesting because, we'll talk about, we had the dinner with Leclerc, we ripped some Dynasty there, but then Golden Pulls, myself, for Jeff.crypto.cards, ripped 8 cases of 2020 Sapphire. 1 case, Jeff couldn't wait, and we ripped it the night before. But we ripped it in the morning, which was late at night for folks over here in the States. And yeah, it was pretty insane. 8 cases, pretty good 8 caser. We pulled 2 pads, including the Valtteri Bottas portrait and the Lando Norris freshest. Big shout out to Golden Pulse and to D2. because of course the generational run that D2 is on, he was the one that ripped both of these. And it was actually hilarious because I ripped 5 boxes in the first case, and we pulled like a red Carlos Sainz portrait and like a image variation of Lewis, like a bunch of good stuff. And I was like, oh, good luck following that. And so the first pack that D2 rips, Pad Botas, literally the first pack. I mean, you just can't stop this guy. He's on fire. So don't break with me, break with him because he's pulling everything. But yeah, and then later, the Lando, when he was opening it, I was on the other side of the camera, and he was like, "Oh my god, portrait," and I could see that it was Lando Norris. And I was like, "No, no, no, it's not portrait," but I couldn't see that it was 199. So I was actually like, "Oh my god, are we about to pull the image variation?" Which would have been crazy, but really cool that we pulled the freshest, because D2 had actually just recently pulled the super fractor for Jeff. So yeah, both of those cards now, absolutely insane. And then the next one that you're bringing up on the screen here, and Jeff actually pulled this for himself. We convinced Jeff. We were like, all right, you got to open some boxes. Last time you wouldn't do it. This time we convinced him to. Opened the gold image variation of Lewis Hamilton, 44 out of 50. This is an absolute monster of a card. Some people give us flack for driver number stuff. It matters, especially with Lewis Hamilton. Driver number cards hold an extreme premium. We already had offers like over 25,000. Literally the second the night after we had ripped this, people were offering 25,000. As of now, Jeff he's grading it, he's holding it. So don't worry about those offers for now. But those are probably the 3 biggest cards that we pulled. We pulled tons of reds, Lewis, portrait of Sainz, image variation of Max Orange, tons and tons of big cards. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, so now we're getting over to, this was right when I landed, right? So this is my course of events. Fly at, I think it was like 7 a.m. from Newark. So I had actually drove down the night before at like 10 p.m. I drive down to Newark, 3 hours. From 1 to 4, I sleep in the hotel that's like right next to the airport. And then I board my plane at like 5 o'clock in the morning to San Francisco, 6-hour flight. And then I have a 1-hour layover and then 14-hour flight to Singapore. So I land at 7:30 and we have dinner with Charles Leclerc at 8:15. So I had to literally get a Grab, which is like an Uber over there, over to Marina Bay Sands, go to the restaurant. I still have my suitcase and backpack and everything. Actually, Charles made fun of me because I had my Red Bull backpack with me. And he's like, well, what is that? What is that? I was like, listen, man, like, what do you want from me? I just got off the plane. But so while we were there, of course, we ripped a case of 2020 and a case of 2023 Dynasty with Charles Leclerc. So it was an amazing experience. I mean, honestly, just talking to Charles about Formula One. You know me, I'm a massive Formula One nerd. So anytime I can talk to someone about Formula One, especially someone who is as knowledgeable as Leclerc, it's a lot of fun. It was funny when I came in, I said, oh yeah, my son is named Sebastian after Sebastian Vettel. And he goes, oh, you must hate me then. Because of course, he beat him at Ferrari and kind of ran him out. I was like, no, listen, Formula One is obviously above all else a meritocracy, unless you're Lance Stroll. So it was a lot of fun. 2020 Dynasty, the 2 cards up on the screen right now. Leclerc pulled a Max Verstappen triple patch out of 10 with some really nice patches. And he pulled a 1-of-1 jumbo zipper of Nicholas Latifi. So
with a master's degree now.
Yeah, absolutely. From London Business School. So very cool for Latifi. We actually had another Latifi in the case. It was a single patch Latifi. And then we had a Christian Horner out of 5, triple patch, and a Gasly dual. So a pretty good case overall. 4 drivers and Christian Horner, you get a Max, you get a 1-of-1 jumbo. I mean, honestly, can't be upset with that case. So yeah, was a lot of fun. Dinner with Leclerc was great. You may have seen this. So up on the screen, we've got it says when your favorite Formula One driver says they want to race for you. So of course I showed Charles the video of little Seb He's got his Charles Leclerc card and his Charles Leclerc car. And then, my wife's like, who's your favorite driver? And of course, he refers to him as not Charles Leclerc, but Charles Leclerc Ferrari. So
That's so cute.
that's his full name. I know. So I showed that to Charles, and Charles is actually like, oh my gosh, let me record a video to send back to him. And I was like, dude, that's amazing. So I showed it. It's so funny. So he posted it, and I showed it to Sebastian, and Sebastian, like, he's only, going on 3. He's like 2 years, 8 months old, or 10 months old actually at this point. Yeah. Oh yeah. Honestly, almost to the day when we drop this, he's 2 months away from being 3. But so, like, he doesn't have like full, awareness of like how significant that is and what's going on, but he is very, very happy. He just like can't stop smiling whenever I show him the video. So yeah, really, really cool. But yeah, amazing experience over in Singapore, with Leclerc doing the rip, being in the paddock, because then we were originally going to have Red Bull Garage tickets, but it's crypto week, token week over there, and like basically it was through an agent, it was resale, and the price of the tickets like tripled. And Jeff is like, no, screw this. This is ridiculous. It's like over $100,000 ticket. So then we didn't have any tickets. We told Leclerc that. And Leclerc's like, oh, no, we'll get you in the Ferrari garage. So he's like, oh yeah, 3 tickets for the Ferrari garage, like taken care of. And so I was like, well, listen, I got to go to dinner with Leclerc and everything. Like, I'm going to give D2, from Golden Bulls my ticket. Like, that's fine. And I'll just sit in the grandstands or something. So then Jeff was talking to Charles, like you do. And he was like, oh, looking forward to seeing, you and your girlfriend and Scott. And Jeff's like, oh, Scott's not actually going to be there. It's going to be one of his business partners. Just easier to explain. He's like, it's just going to be one of his business partners there. And Charles was like, oh, Scott's not going to be there? Oh, let me get him some tickets. So then Leclerc got me Ferrari Paddock Club 3-day tickets for like some special like guest discount thing for Jeff. And so then it was funny when I went into the Ferrari Paddock Club, I had my ticket that's like one of the ones on the lanyard, and I give it to him. She's like, oh, who are you here for? Like, because a lot of them say like Marina Bay Sands or Ray-Ban or Credit Uni, like all their sponsors and stuff, right? And I was like, Ferrari, Charles. Like, I was like, I don't know. And so then this other lady came over, and she's like, I think the person that manages all this stuff for Charles. And she's like, oh, no, he's Charles' personal guest. And I was like,
whoa.
Okay. Like, that's weird words to hear. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I got to have the Ferrari headset on, listen to the radio. And race was entertaining. Wasn't the best weekend for Ferrari, but could have been worse. So, overall decent. And yeah, just really, really cool experience. Needless to say, I am now a pretty big Charles Leclerc fan. Still love Sebastian, of course. Sebastian Vettel will always be my GOAT. And I'm obviously a big Max fan, but yeah, I would love to see Leclerc get a car that he can get some wins in, for sure.
It's just awesome. I like the other part. Let's just bring it back to the cards here for a second. Like, who in a million years would have thought a couple years ago you'd be in the position to do that? And I'll tell you what, a lot of us are living vicariously through the P1 castle. It's just it's awesome. And the fact that you've been so open about sharing the experience too. I think a lot of people will be really appreciative of that. It's
Yeah.
just so cool. Like, even just hearing you say it now, I'm just like once in a lifetime type of event.
Yeah. I mean, it's something we'll never forget until next year when we go to Singapore again. The annual pilgrimage to Singapore.
Well, speaking of Singapore, Scott, let's just quickly recap the Pick'em challenge from last week.
Let's do it. So it was a fairly easy week in terms of matchups. So the score was, the average score was 49.4. A lot of high scores, 4 perfect scores. But McLando's, for the second time, takes down the $100 in brake credit. He predicted pole position. He was off by 0.068 seconds and got a perfect score. So pretty insane. Congratulations to McLandos on that one. And then in terms of how the community voted, 98% took Lando. That was right. 100% on Oscar, 100% on Max. 70% took Yuki over Behrman, but Behrman gets the dub. Then 99% took Russell. He, of course, gets the win. 85% Antonelli. 84% Leclerc. 96% Lewis. 44% on Fernando Alonso, who wins over Carlos Sainz. And then 91% on Albon over Gasly. So, again, it was pretty, easy as far, like, you can see a lot of 98, 100, 100, 99, and those were the folks that won. The only two upsets were really the Fernando Alonso over Carlos Sainz and then Behrman over Yuki. As far as the leaderboard, I'm just going to rattle it off. We've got Branham Jim, Spyro, Iceman, Cden, Adam Hareen, F1 Ben, Putty F1, G Myers Cards, Lando Card, Rissian, Not So Speed Racer 1, Max McDowell, MN Purple, Michelle F1 Fan, EC87 GTI, Justin Instant Cards, and Bambimon. 756 is right now the cutoff. And when we go to the On the Bubble, we've got Fire and Ice, Nico Tomicelli, The Mentions Bench, Supermax, Super MSC, Tricks Cards, Michael W. Rager, KC Cards, Hammer Time Hits, and Ken in Vegas. Ken's about 22 points back, all the way up to 4 points back. So there's only 2 races left for the cumulative scoring. So this next week, which we'll go over a little bit later, again, the matchups aren't super tough because everyone's got to kind of go through and match up against everyone once. But then the 20th race, I think, is really going to be where it all comes down, because then all the teammates are racing against each other, which would be close. For driver standings, in terms of just order right now, it's Max, Lando, Oscar, Leclerc, Albon, Russell, Sonoda, Hadjar, Hamilton, Hulkenberg, Lawson, Antonelli, Sainz, Behrman, Gasly, Bortoletto, Ocon, Alonso, Kalapuin, and Stroll. Again, the top 16 drivers are also going to make it into like the bracket to see, who wins the single driver versus driver matchup championship at the end of the year. So far, Max crushing it in first. Looks like Lance Stroll, Janko Kalapuin have been eliminated from contention. They can no longer make the playoffs, but we have 4 drivers tied at 6 and 12. So it'll be close to see which 2 of those make it in.
Will be exciting. All right, Scott, we talked about it at the opening. Our this or that segment this time, we're going to look at 2 cards, 2020 Topps Chrome, the GOAT set, the OG set.
That's right.
The flow chart always leads there, whether it's Chrome or Sapphire,
of course,
or Dynasty. Wanted to look at the base Chrome cards. Number 1, Lewis Hamilton, and number 6, Max Verstappen. Looking at PSA 10s. Now this gets really interesting, Scott, but I'll toss it over to you to kind of like tee this up of kind of, we alluded to it at the opening, but why we're looking at both at this point.
Yeah, so the reason we're looking at both, right, is obviously Lewis and Max are the biggest in 2020. There's no getting around Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, seen as the GOAT from, all the guys that are in the current sets. And Max Verstappen's kind of like the current GOAT, right? He's won the last 4 championships, even though he's probably not going to win this year, although he might. It's, highly, accepted that he's been the best driver this year. So, Max is driving the best right now. Lewis has driven the best in the past. But in general, Lewis cards usually outperform Max, right? Across the board, Lewis generally sells for more, especially at high-end cards. So, while I'm kind of buying cards for, the Paddock Packs, repacks, and, doing other things in terms of looking up values of cards, something jumped out to me. And it really came to a head where there was one sale, and this was a bit of an outlier, but one of the Max Verstappen Chrome PSA 10 sold for $295 on the same day that a Lewis sold for like 155. And I was like, there's no way, this gap makes no sense. And I was like, surely then, it must be that like the Lewis pop is just way higher. Maybe a lot more people graded Lewis's, and maybe the max pop is lower. On the screen, talk us through the pop. What are we seeing here?
So for the Lewis, and this is the base cards, not the refractors. We
Mhm.
typically will look at refractors first, but this is interesting because obviously this is the most readily available card. So for the Lewis, card number 1, the portrait, hands together, if you're not on YouTube, the pop is 1,278, a gem rate of 51%. I'm not that shocked by that number, Scott. When we compare that to the max, card number 6 and a PSA 10, the pop is 101 cards more, and it's at the time of this doing. If there's more that's been submitted, that'll slightly change. 1,379 PSA 10s with a gem rate of 61%. I've talked
Yeah.
about it in prior episodes, and it may have even been the last one. It's hard to tell when we kind of stack up the episodes, but sometimes what I've found from my experience over years of prepping 2020, and I love prepping 2020 cards. If somebody sends me 2020 cards, they go right to the front of the line. Like I so enjoy it so much. I've found, and I think I mentioned it when we talked about the max refractors, where there's a lot of issues on those. I actually feel like the Lewis cards actually have a lot of issues, and to be honest, I'm really being picky, Scott. At even the facsimile image that we're showing here, it's really hard to tell, but in the bottom left-hand corner of this Lewis Hamilton, there is a slight little surface scratch that is messing with my OCD. I'm gonna put the little cursor, I'm gonna circle it here. But this right
Right. Do you
there,
think that's on the card or the slab?
I think it's on the card. I would
Ooh.
disqualify this from PSA 10. I wouldn't if I had this, I
Well, there
probably
you
wouldn't
go.
send it.
It's true.
But anyways, just one other quick note because I can go on and on and on for hours about this stuff. Usually with the base cards, you see little notches like on the top of the card where
Mhm.
you have to really get under light and magnification to see it. When people send me base cards and they're only looking for PSA 10s, I very rarely send them, Scott, just because there's just so many issues. I feel the base cards are best suited for like a set, like if you're building a
Mhm.
box and you want to keep them in top loaders, or if you want to spend a lot of money and get one touches, maybe perhaps P1 Castle one touches.
There you go.
It's interesting. I don't know. I'm not necessarily surprised by the 10% difference in the gem rate, but there's obviously been a lot more Lewis submitted than Max. So, I mean, we can clearly see that. There's just more 9s and 8s and 7s.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, it is surprising to see more gems for Max, just given the price. And I think I I would be curious, what people would guess without knowing. And now, I mean, we've already talked about it, but like I think people would expect Lewis to be selling for more. And we can go to the next slide here because we're going to take a look at the sales over the last year. So you can see Lewis is here in green, Max is here in red, and you can see they're both following a similar trajectory. About a year ago, both of these cards on average are around $125. And all the way up until about August, they had moved up to like 175. Since then, Lewis has been pretty flat. Max has continued to grow. Now Max is about over 200, again with that outlier at over, 295, which is wild. But you can see that, ever since August, and it's kind of around the time when Lewis, you know, his performance, dropped off. Remember the quote, that he's like, "Oh yeah, maybe Ferrari should change the driver." Or something like that. And he was a bit down on himself, and Max started to go on a tear. So I think what we're seeing a little bit is for these more liquid, more readily available, and more, not super cheap, but lower end cards for Lewis and Max, performance matters, right? People are paying more for Max because he's performing better right now. if you get up to the 2020 Dynasty stuff, then all of that's out the window, right? Because you're just dealing with completely different cards, completely different collectors and mindsets and everything. But it is interesting to look at, one of the most liquid cards, and they're still solid, right? 2020 base, rookie card, so to speak, in terms of first tops license, printed card, portrait, PSA 10s. Like these are solid cards for a collection. It's like the cheapest way and most efficient way to like get like a core card, I would say, for like a
Mhm.
Lewis or Max collection. And it's interesting to see the disparity, between the two. And I'm curious to see, how the price evolves over the rest of the season and into next year, new regulations. There's a lot of factors, but yeah, it was just really interesting to me to see, and I really want to do more of this. Looking at card ladder sales and kind of graphing them out and everything, to watch the trends, because I think we've both noticed, Formula One cards in general, especially 2020 over this past year, have gone up, right? We've seen a steady climb from last year. Last year, prices were a bit down, and more people have come into the hobby. And I think that's what I feel like I was beating a dead drum constantly last year, just saying like, listen, the thing that we need the most for card values, for stability, etc., is just more people in the hobby. The more people that are in the F1 hobby, there's more people buying the smaller cards and the mid-tier cards and everything, and it's like trickle down effect, right? You have more people fighting for the big cards, that rises those prices, and then everything kind of along the way goes up, and there's more people to disperse, cards like this. Like we saw the pop, there's 12, 13, 1400 copies of this card. So there's a lot out there. And now, they're finally starting to tick up because more people want to add them to their collection. So I think also a lot of people are coming in, and then, they're also noticing like, oh, 2020, that's really cool. And getting into that side of things rather than, just whatever the new product is out. We're also in the end of a product cycle, right? Like I think, not as many people were probably buying 2020 from November through March, because everyone was so focused on the 2024 products that have just come out. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if we saw a slight dip in 2020 come, early next year. Whenever the new products are coming out, they should be coming out, end of this year, the kind of, fall time, end of this year. And people are going to be really excited about 2025, and that's what they're going to be focused on. And, some of these 2020 cards and auctions might go under the radar and get missed. And, the price will go down. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how things develop over the next 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, no, great points. I know personally, again, not financial advice. I've been shifting a lot of my focus for my own collection to 2020. Building out my you mentioned card ladder, Scott. I'm a huge fan. I didn't even realize I'd had access to it through PSA. If you have a PSA submission membership, and I track my whole collection through that now, and it pulls in all the recent sales and stuff, so it's great. I haven't looked at these graphs and stuff. I know, in our prior podcast of the Cards Formula with TC and Chris, we used to look at this stuff quite a bit. I'm really looking forward to looking at this going forward. You and I are both data heads, love stats. You love your brackets. We can maybe create some
That's
brackets
true.
out of this stuff, but good
Yep.
stuff. Good stuff indeed. All right, let's shift gears, and before we get to your predictions, we've got to look at the matchups for the US Grand Prix in Austin. One of the best tracks, I feel like, on the calendar. Very iconic lead up to the first turn. You always see some action there. The last couple of years, Scott, have given us a lot of memorable moments, and
Absolutely.
it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, US Grand Prix is always a lot of fun. I say it every year, it's the best Grand Prix in the United States. in Austin. So I'm a fan. I've gone many times, going again this year. Really looking forward to it. But of course, it is the 19th race of the season, which means we've got some matchups here. So I'll go through the matchups, and then Brian, you got to give me your 10 and your 1, then I'll do the same. So we've got Lando Norris against Carlos Sainz, Oscar Piastri against Nico Hulkenberg, Max Verstappen against Oliver Behrman, Yuki Tsunoda against Esteban Ocon, George Russell against Pierre Gasly, Kimi Antonelli against Gabriel Bortoleto, Charles Leclerc against Lance Stroll, Lewis Hamilton against Franco Colapinto, Fernando Alonso against Liam Lawson, and Alex Albon against Isaac Hadjar. So what are you thinking for your 10 and your 1?
There's some tough ones. There's some there's some slam dunks this week, Scott, but then there's also some really close ones.
Yep.
I feel really good about Ferrari's matchups this week. Obviously,
Okay.
both the drivers that they're going against are at the very bottom of
The
your
two that are
drivers'
already
ranks.
eliminated from
The two that are
contention
already
for the
landed.
playoffs. Yeah.
Just because I don't want to take yours. I think I know where you're going to go. I'm going to go with
Alright.
Lewis over Colapinto. That's going to be
That's
my
your
10.
slam dunk?
That's my 10.
Okay. You better tell the engineers who set up the car not to put those skid planks too low.
My 1, Scott, is I'm going to go with Hadjar over Albon.
I like it.
Interesting stat that I can't remember who to attribute to on Instagram, but I saw it, and they compared the first year results of Max, Leclerc, and now Hadjar, and I believe he's 2 races away from finishing in the points in 10 races, and that's something that both Max and Leclerc accomplished. So it doesn't mean it would mean that he's destined for
Baby
greatness.
goat.
Baby goat. But I mean, if we roll back the footage to the rookies that we talked about at the very beginning of the season, I think he came in 5th out of the ones that we were that excited about, and he's turned into one of the best.
Yeah, well, I mean, we go back to Australia, right? He didn't even get to race because he put in the wall in the formation lap. And what a long way he has come from that race. And I remember saying in our Legends chat, like, because people were all piling on, I'm like, oh my god, Hadjar is terrible. I was like, guys, give it time. Give it time. But yeah, I think he is definitely one of the front runners for Rookie of the Year. I think we've seen some other drivers do well.
Maybe
but
George will make him a PowerPoint.
There we go. Maybe he will. All right, so I like that 10 and that 1. In terms of my 10, I've got to go with my guy, Charles Leclerc.
See, I was gonna pick him,
I
but I was
know.
like,
I could tell, right? And now we both need to talk to Ferrari. I'm gonna get the headset back on, and I'm gonna turn it on so I can talk. Be like, listen, don't you guys dare put that skid plank too low, because US is a bumpy track. So get that thing up, man. No more post race DQs. Can't have it. And I am gonna put my 10 on Leclerc. For my 1, I'm also gonna go with a V carb driver. And I'm going to go opposite as you. I'm going to take Liam Lawson over Fernando Alonso. I think the Alonso Lawson and the Albon Hadjar matchups are the most pivotal matchups. Like, as I'm going down this, like, you think Lando slam dunk, Oscar slam dunk, Max slam dunk, Yuki, I don't know, Russell slam dunk, Antonelli slam dunk, Leclerc slam dunk, Hamilton slam dunk. Like, this is what happens, right? When we go through the whole season and every driver's got to go against every other driver, right? Like, these last couple races have just been like, oh, there's a lot of cupcake matchups. But those two are important, and I think that's where it'll really kind of decide some of these standings. And again, I'm gonna bang it home, but Mexico is going to be the biggest race of all because everyone is racing against their teammate. And that is where things will get really spicy. But yeah, so really excited for it. And then also excited for at the US Grand Prix, of course, because there are so many collectors. We are going to be doing a US Grand Prix Formula One card collector meetup at the race. So it's going to be at the I think it's on the next slide. It's got the fan I forget what it's called, Fan Field, I think. Yes. So the Fan Field lawn. So they have a whole area that they're calling like the Fan Field, and they have like a bunch of different setups and everything. There's games and like booths and stuff like that. So we'll be meeting on the Fan Field lawn. You'll see me, Hammer Time Hits, everybody. I think a ton of people are planning to come, and we're planning to do this Saturday at 1:30 track time. And so the reason we chose that is because that'll be after the sprint race, but early enough that like we'll be able to hang out, and then go back to your seats or wherever you're going to be for actual race qualifying. Because again, this is a sprint weekend, so we've got Friday one practice and then sprint qualifying, and then Saturday we've got the sprint race and then regular race qualifying. So at 1:30. In terms of what we'll be doing, so we are going to have trivia with prizes. So we'll have packs and other kind of giveaways and stuff for trivia. So if you can answer trivia questions right, you'll get some prizes. We're going to have other giveaways. You're obviously going to be able to meet other fellow collectors. I know a lot of people have been talking in our chats already and getting excited for meeting up and stuff. So, we'll see everyone there at the track. So again, Saturday at 1:30 on the Fan Field lawn. Be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to meeting up with fellow collectors. Honestly, one of my favorite things in this entire hobby, like in just like the life that I'm living, doing Formula One cards and being a huge F1 fan, is meeting with other collectors at the races. Like that for me, like I love National. I love Trade Night. It's awesome. We get so many people that are into cards in the same area, but like for me, mixing like the actual like cards collecting, but like being at the like that is just, you'll never beat it. Never beat it. What I really, really hope to do one day is maybe if I win the lottery, is to be able to like bring out a bunch of collectors, like pay for everything, get them all in the area, and we're all like watching it in the same place, something, the P1 Castle Paddock Suite, one of these days. But really excited for it. And one of these days, Brian, we're gonna have to drag you up to Canada, because I think Canada is probably the closest one for you. We'll have to drag you over to Canada.
Yeah, I did. We've got passports now. I can make the
There we go.
trek. I can go over the border. It's
I love
about
it.
4 or 5 hours, I think, from where I'm at. So
Yeah, easy.
even my wife has
Easy.
been like, "Hey, I think that would be really cool to do." Actually, it usually coincides like with my birthday. So
Look at that.
there you go.
Birthday, Canadian Grand Prix. Amazing.
Well, we're not quite done with the Austin Grand Prix here,
It's true.
Scott. So let's get your predictions.
All right. So again, it is a sprint race. I don't know. We've got the wrong. That's my mistake. We have the wrong track on there. That's Spa. So
Only
US
diehards would notice
predictions
that.
for sprint pole, we've got Max Verstappen. I think, the reason I'm picking Max for sprint pole here too is because, and other drivers say it, and a lot of analysts say it, Max is just always on it immediately. Like Max takes the least amount of time to get top speed right away. Like a lot of drivers like to, build up over the weekend and stuff. Max is just on it from like lap 1 or 2. So I'm taking Max for sprint pole. Then for the sprint podium, I really like Ferrari here. You chose Lewis, I chose Leclerc. I'm hoping they're going to have their car set up really well right at the beginning. And I'm going to go Max, Leclerc, Lewis for my sprint podium. Then when we get to actual qualifying, I'm taking Max again. I really do think Red Bull's going to be strong here. Red Bull seemingly is strong everywhere now. After they made those upgrades to their car, and Max is just a beast. So I'm going to take him in pole position. And then for the actual race, I think Max is going to make a clean sweep. And I'm taking Max all the way through. I think Max is going to take sprint pole, sprint win, pole position, and the win. And I got Leclerc in second and Lando in third. Little hopium here, hoping, something happens with Oscar maybe or something. We need this championship battle, guys. Stop calling me an Oscar hater. If Lando was up by 22 points, I'd be hoping that Lando had issues, because all I want is that to culminate in a three-way battle in Abu Dhabi. I need Max to take wins. I need Lando to get some points. I need Oscar to take some weeks off. Like that is how we get a three-way battle in Abu Dhabi. I want them all to be tied going into the last race. And my castle call is that the McLarens make contact for the second race in a row. Papaya rules. The new papaya rules is that you always make contact with your teammate. And that's how it's going to be the rest of the season. They're going to clash over and over and over. Now that Oscar feels hard done by the team, Lando's like, what are you talking about, bro? I just made a pass. Like, deal with it. And I think the gloves are going to come off finally. And we're going to see them scrap it out a bit, which is what I've been waiting for all season. We're fine. I mean, how many times did we talk about this earlier? Like, oh, we want 2016, like Rosberg Hamilton vibes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I really want to see. And I think finally we might get it.
So Scott, I haven't talked to you since the Singapore Grand Prix. What is your stance on what occurred?
So my stance is that it was racing. Like I think it all comes down to like what you believe about like this whole papaya rules like teammate thing, right? Because like if that was, Lando and like Leclerc was on the outside or Max or something, like it's no issue at all. I think it's the issue is because they're teammates, right? Now, I will say I think so many people have given Lando flack all season for not being aggressive. Now he's finally aggressive. And those same people are like, "Oh, it's not fair." so I don't know. I think it was a great move. I think it was an aggressive move, and I think it's a move that Lando needs to make. If he wants to be in the championship battle, he can't just sit behind, right? He's got to make those moves. I also think Oscar was smart in, moving over. And to be fair, it's not like Lando tried to hit Oscar. He went in, he tapped Max, got oversteer, had to correct it. So it looks like he's like turning into his teammate, but he's correcting the oversteer, right? To get his tires back and then immediately goes back on line. He's got the inside line. They touch tires. It wasn't a big tap. Whether I think they should have like given the position back? No, absolutely not. I also don't think they should have done that silly position swap in Monza. Like I think that was stupid. I think it would have been stupid for them to swap now. I think McLaren is getting in their own way by trying to do this whole like, oh, we want it to be fair. We got two number one drivers, so we just want it to be fair. Zach Brown like needs to calm down because it's never just going to be fair. I mean, Lando had a DNF in Zandvoort. Like it's gone. There's no fair. Like, what are they gonna Oscar? You got to sit out a race. Like it's not gonna happen. Racing is racing. Bad pit stops happen. You make touches. It is what it is. I think it's fine. I think it was hard racing by Lando. I think it was fair racing. And I honestly am just very happy that it happened because now Oscar knows, oh, okay. So papaya rules isn't a thing anymore. And now he's just gonna race. Like if that happens again, I don't think Oscar is, as lenient in that situation. And I don't think he'll be if they're racing wheel to wheel in Texas or any races in the future. So overall, I know I'm yapping, ranting at this point, but I think it was a good hard move. And go next.
I think we're going to see the villain era of Piastri here.
I hope so.
If you look back at a lot of radio calls, and I think people kind of cherry pick certain radio messages and stuff like that, but it does look like the team has favored Lando at different points, and that's just a narrative that's been crafted. I think, Scott, because Max is down in the bottom of this graphic here, looking up at potentially the McLaren's making contact. I honestly do think, Scott, that Max just has some magic left, and I'm with you. I think Abu Dhabi is going to matter a lot. And I think Max is going to be maybe an outside Hail Mary, Kimi Räikkönen attempt away from potentially throwing his hat in the ring.
What I would love to see is we go into Abu Dhabi We've got Oscar, wherever he is, right? Lando, like 2 points back. And then Max, another like 22 points back. So Max would be like 24 points behind, which means if the two McLarens take each other out and Max wins, he would win. So it would, I mean, that would be spicy, right? I mean, imagine, like, imagine that would blow everybody's mind. If the two McLarens are 24 points ahead of Max, say they're tied on points, 24 points ahead, and they crash, take each other both out of the race, and Max wins and steals the championship. Oh my God. Woo! Absolute cinema.
Absolute cinema, to use your term from earlier.
Crazy.
Well, my friend, it's been great to be back in the podcast saddle. I know you've got a lot of stuff coming up. You've got travel. You'll be at the race when this drops. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some more episodes and keep this this constant flow that we've gotten going for a while here, despite you traversing the world like you typically do.
Hey, Formula One is a global sport, so it's only fair that we travel the globe. But yeah, so it should be a lot of fun. US Grand Prix, of course, meetup. Be ready for it. And then when we get back from that, volume 2 of Trackside and Purple Sector coming out, and Pit Lane Access volume 1. So that should be a lot of fun.
Sounds great. We'll look forward to that.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, it's good to be back, and hopefully we'll get a little bit more regular schedule once we're back from the Austin Grand Prix. But in the meantime, collect your cardboard, keep it carbon.